in the workplace. So my name is Aziz Mina and I'm the co-founder of 2 to 3 Degrees. And I will be your host today. So we've got an amazing panelist that you've probably seen on our socials and via email that's kind of helping us to talk about this conversation from various different industries as well. But who are 2 to 3 Degrees? And also, how much do you know about Gen Z? So firstly, 2 to 3 Degrees is a personal development company. We set up 2016 and we've worked with over 10,000 young people across a range of different organizations and programs across London and the UK. We are personal development specialists, meaning that we talk a lot about confidence building, networking, self-esteem, really helping young people develop the key skills that they need for their futures. And so today we'll be talking from our personal experiences as to what we've done in order to engage with the amount of young people that we have over this course. In addition to that, it's really important that we showcase who our team are. So our team are a dynamic group of young people from across, I shouldn't just say young people to be fair, we're a dynamic group of people from across the UK representing various different cultures and backgrounds, which really feeds into how we make our work activity-based, dynamic and engaging for young people as well. We speak a little bit about some of our partners that we've worked with. So you might be thinking, why are 2 to 3 Degrees even putting on a session like this? So it's really, really important for us. We believe that it's important to share information. There is no point in holding all of the things that we have learned along this journey with ourselves and with the few people or the people and the organizations that get to work with us. We actually want to make sure that this work that we do is accessible to all different industries so that we're all reaching as many young people as possible. So if you're thinking, why are you doing this for free, guys? You're about to tell your trade secrets. That is the reason. We feel like there's more than enough young people across the world, I did say the world, that we should all be trying to work with and support. So yeah, that is our ambition and that's why we're putting on this free session. But without further ado, we have a quick poll to keep you guys engaged in the session as well, that we're going to be launching just now. Dun, 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 dun. So this is my theme tune, elevator music as it's loading. First question. What percentage of young people are not confident in finding good quality work where they live? Feel free to put whatever percentage you feel like is true. And the second question is, why do you want to learn about the Gen Z? About Gen Z, not the Gen Z, just Gen Z generally, not the Gen Z. Yeah, so feel free to add to the poll. Feel free to add to the poll some of your thoughts and some of your perspectives. And we're going to share this as well, just so that everyone else gets to see what everyone else has put down.
Right, it's very, very interesting reflection so far. Majority of people are saying around 86% of young people are not confident in finding good quality work where they live. Sounds like someone's been looking at our notes. And then we've got a whole host of reasons why people have joined. I think for me, one of the things that's probably most interesting is finding out whether people are working with Gen Z currently and whether they've joined this session to find out how they can better work with Gen Z. I hear from a lot of partners, a lot of clients that they would love to get tips and tricks on how to engage with Gen Z in the workplace, especially when it comes to line managing Gen Z or doing project management with Gen Z. So hopefully some of the things that we cover in today's session can actually do just that. And hopefully we've got everyone who's completed the poll. If you haven't completed the poll, please do so before we bring it to an end.
Perfect. So I think everyone should be able to see the poll now. And yeah, as Carl mentioned, you guys are definitely looking at our notes. 86% of young people do not feel confident in finding good quality work where they live. And I think this is a really useful statistic to set as a precursor to this conversation. Like if there's a lot of young people that we want to engage with in the emerging markets, in new talent, and really engaging with young people to see their industry as attractive, well, why are the young people not feeling confident? And so we're really going to tackle some of those key points as to how to help young people become more confident in not only seeing your opportunity, but entering and actually feeling confident whilst they're there. So if you've got any questions and particularly burning points that you really want us to make sure we cover in this session, please do put your questions in the chat and as we go through, because then we can cover it at the end. Right.
And I guess something just to add on to that key point that Aziz mentioned, this is also speaking specifically to where young people live. So the local point is particularly important, because if you take yourself back to being 15, 16 years old, you barely even left your borough. So if you feel like you can't find good employment opportunities where you live, your perspective on whether you can find good work is going to be very limited. So it just speaks to how, for all of you as employers and partners who work with young people, we've got such an important part to play in actually making sure that opportunities for young people are really clear, especially to those that are local to where you are based. Cool.
Right, so in today's session, we're going to be covering a few things. First is learning practical tips on how to engage with Gen Z. I already said we're going to be sharing trade secrets. Feel free to use them, write as many notes as possible. We'll also be sending notes after. The other thing is we really want to help you increase awareness of your organization to Gen Z. So we're talking about talent pipeline and recruiting young people. But what about when they get there as well? So how can we help share the advice that we've been given and we've done throughout the many years of how to help young people develop key skills so that they can be career ready? So it's one thing to reaching them. There's another thing in attracting them to your organization. And the third is, how do they stay? How do they stay and how do they flourish when they're there? And then lastly, how do we listen to some of their insights in live business challenges? And we'll be speaking to that as well. So as I mentioned briefly, we've got a great panelist. We've got Carl, who's the CEO of 2 to 3 Degrees and co-founder, along with myself as a co-founder, but he will be a panelist today speaking a lot about some of the experiences that we've had as an organization. We've got Mohammed, who is a young person who's actually been on one of our programs before and is flourishing. Guys, honestly, I have seen his LinkedIn page just blowing up over the last few months, but it's been such a proud moment just to see how much he's thriving in the workspace and taking up as many opportunities as he can. So he'll be speaking about his experience as a young person. Then we've got the incredible Tony, who works at DWP, but he's worked there for a number of years, but really supports local organizations, social enterprise organizations, youth organizations, and building the relationship with corporate organizations as well to provide long-term sustainable change within helping more young people get work, basically. And so he's a really great person who will be speaking on today's panel. And the incredible Tara has worked with 2 to 3 Degrees at BNP Paribas for a number of years, really championing great opportunities to work with young people and expose young people to the world and industry of finance through a range of different mediums. So she'll be speaking about her experience in the corporate sector as well. So feel free to ask any of them questions, but I appreciate some people will ask questions before they join the session. So let's talk about the very first objective. So the very first objective is talking about learning practical tips on how to engage in the Gen Z. So for us at 2 to 3 Degrees, it's really important that we have some really key principles that are used as foundations across every single workshop or service that we do. The very first one is begin with the end in mind. So there's no point in developing a program or developing any outreach activity with young people if you haven't thought about, what do we actually want to get at the end of this journey? Like, what is the long-term impact that we're looking to achieve? And actually, how are we going to engage with those young people on that journey as well? And so it's really important that thinking about the end before you start helps to navigate the ways in which you design a program, a service, or an opportunity for young people. And a really good question as well to ask yourself is, what type of young people do you want to reach? So the type of young people that you want to reach is going to dictate your outreach and recruitment elements, which we'll speak about a little bit more. But this is really, really important before you decide on doing any opportunities with young.
You often hear that people describe Gen Z as entitled. And we're not going to get into whether that's true or not. But one of the things I love to say to all of our partners is that when you were 16, 15 years old, you were also entitled. You are not at a place where you would think about what does the business need or what does the local community need. No, you were also thinking, actually, how am I going to get employed? What is my future going to look like? So that beginning with the ending point in mind point is super, super key. If you can actually ask yourself, what value are we going to give to young people before we actually design this program? It's going to take this program to the next level. The second point on here is putting yourself in the shoes of young people, particularly key. We're going to go into some stuff around co-designing a little bit later, but this point around asking yourself, what value can I provide for young people first? It means that when you end up designing a program, you design a program that a young person in Gen Z is actually going to care about. You design a program that's got them at the forefront of their mind. Some key points that we've got in here around covering food and transport. Really basic one, but super, super key, especially if you're trying to engage with young people from more diverse backgrounds. You don't know their situation. You don't know where they're coming from. Covering food and transport is a way to make sure that you're being as inclusive as possible, increasing their network and building their knowledge. Whenever we work with partners, we always say that you've got a whole host of value just in your organization. For a lot of young people, when they get into certain sectors, they don't know the plethora of opportunities that are available to them. So for example, we do a lot of work in the property sector. And whenever we work in the property sector, we speak to young people. And when they think property, they think hard hats and estate agents. And it stops right there. They don't go as far as social value. They don't go as far as quantity surveyors. They don't know all of the different available opportunities to them. So helping young people understand that knowledge is particularly important. And then just making it tangible. By the time they've finished working with you, what is the tangible thing that they can put on their CV? Because every young person, like Aziz just mentioned about Mohammed, has got an incredible LinkedIn profile if they can point back to the examples that they've used by working on a program with you. So be really specific about putting yourself in their shoes and making sure you're adding that key value.
Cool. And then making it fun, engaging, and dynamic. So I appreciate we're talking from a perspective of a youth engagement expert, right? So the way we deliver our workshops are designed to be fun, engaging, and dynamic, because we believe that activity-based learning is useful in helping people retain information. So for example, rather than me showing you slides, which I'm doing now, I'm trying to also make sure that there are ways in which I can engage with you in multi different facets. And so making sure that when designing a program, you're thinking about what are the fun elements here? What are the elements that we can take them out and about? What are the elements that doesn't just require you to sit behind a computer? Or are there elements where they can kind of shadow or come to a networking breakfast? All of these different things that make a program really dynamic is some of the things that also help sell the program to the young person. When I say sell, I mean technically reach the young person. So are those things that you can provide beforehand that you can actually share with the young person before you provide the opportunity? For example, can your application say on this program or on this work experience opportunity, you also will be getting access to X, Y, and Z, which will help attract them onto the program as well. And so I think it's really important to think about the different types of learning styles, the different types of ways to engage young people in order for them to sign up. Cool. These are 3 key principles that we use personally. So before we design any of our programs, any of our opportunities, we think about this and we make sure we embed it into the way in which we work. So we're thinking a little bit about increasing awareness. So here, based on our research and conversations with lots of different employers, there's kind of 2 steps that typically happen, maybe a few more. So I'll speak through it. Sometimes organizations, someone in the organization has been championing for an internship, for example. Excellent. Internship gets signed off. Let's put that application together. Let's put it on a jobs board, and then people will sign up. So there's really only 2 processes: the application getting approved internally and putting the work experience job internship on a portal and hoping young people to sign up. There might be some organizations that say, do you know what, we need to go one step further because we know young people are on socials, let's post it on social media. There might be another group of young people that's like, okay, another group of employers that might say, oh, let's go to a careers fair. But all of these things could be sometimes, and they're not always joined up. So this social media post that you're doing, on whose platform is it? Is it the company platform where no young people are already viewers of or followers of? Or are you going to a careers fair just once in a while hoping that you'll find a group of young people on that specific day that you can engage with. The reason why we bring this up is because this process alone is not going to be the one that's going to engage the most amount of young people to your process or to your application. It is not going to be that direct opportunity flowing route to get a groundswell of young people. And that's a really critical point. Whilst you feel like the application is a great ticking point internally, you've got that sign off, there's a few more steps that organizations like ours and others really have to take to make sure that you have a groundswell of applicants. Outreach. So remember we said begin with the end in mind. Well, who are we trying to reach here? If we're trying to reach college students, they might not always be at a careers fair. So maybe you have to go into the college itself to do a taster session. What does a taster session look like? Is it just a talk for 20 minutes in their form class? Is it an opportunity for you to kind of share with them opportunities that they will be able to do? Are you posted in the reception of the college with little flyers about actually, this is how you're going to be able to come on this program? Or are you also going to do social media? The social media, yes, it can be for young people, but are you putting your social media posts on other platforms where young people frequent? In addition to that, are you creating social media posts that actually engage parents or carers or siblings? All of this is actually really, really important to making sure that you get a diverse group of Gen Z young people signing up to an opportunity that you want to provide. But not only that, where are they? So let's say that you want to be, you're based in Westminster and you want to find young people in Westminster. Yes, you could go to the school or college to do a taster session. Yes, you can do social media, but actually maybe you need to walk around and figure out where are they locally. Now, I get that I'm asking you guys a lot, given that this is not your day job. All you've actually wanted to do is provide an opportunity for young people. I get it. But actually, if you are trying to directly impact and reach those young people because you're not working with an organization like ours, then maybe stepping outside the comfort zone of the normal routes that you do, these are some of the ways in which you can do it to reach more young people.
Excellently said. I guess the only other thing to mention here is I'm aware that there's going to be a few different types of people on the call. So you might well be on the call
I've just realized the car's just frozen. Give us 1 second. You're back.
Right, I think I'm back. Sorry about that, slight tech issue. And so I was saying, we've got a few different types of people on the call. You might well be on the call and you have opportunities for young people, but you don't necessarily have your own program. Or you might well be on the call where you have opportunities, you do have your own program, but you don't have pathways. And finally, you might well be on the call where you have all three. Regardless of what you have for young people, the principles that we mentioned earlier are particularly important for a starting point. And then what Aziz is breaking down here is how in an ideal world, if you had all of these pathways, by the time young people come to work with you or engage with you, they A, know who you are, B, have been trained and developed, and C, are now in a position to make the most of that opportunity. And that's where our 2 to 3 degrees program is really, really important, because young people develop their personal development skills, such as confidence, self-esteem, leadership, public speaking skills. They then get key experiences with new local employers. So what we do is, if we're working in a specific borough, say, for example, the Mastering My Future program that we've got in Westminster, we will find local employers from the area and work with them to design inspirational workshops where young people can come in and get an understanding of what your business does. And that way, what you're doing is you're opening up young people's ideas, A, to your sector, but also B, to the key skills that they can develop by working with you. And then the professional networks piece is really important. Whenever we have young people come in and deliver work with employers, we're always encouraging them to do follow-up, whether that's via LinkedIn, applying for opportunities directly with the employer, going on our Connect platform and looking for opportunities there, those pieces are really important, because we don't just want young people to get inspired and motivated for nothing. We want them to actually use it for tangible actions that they're going to take elsewhere as well. And so once those programs are delivered, they can be anywhere from kind of 12 to 24 months long. And we have got some short-term programs that are 6 to 12 weeks long that we deliver as part of our personal development program. And then we have key pathways that we're trying to identify for young people to take on. So once they've been through that process, there's always a celebration event at the end of one of our programs. And that obviously is to celebrate the incredible journey that they've gone on. And we'll do that with an inspirational employer. We'll then also give them certificates to showcase the journey that they've been on. And we'll really use that event as an opportunity to really clarify some of the key learnings that the young people have had. And then we encourage them to continue building connections. So they build connections with each other, which is one of the things that we found is probably most important for young people in our programs. Being with other young people from like-minded communities is really important, but then we encourage them to build connections with the employers that we've had as part of the program, which is particularly key. There's also 2 to 3 degree staff members that they obviously get the opportunity to build connections with as well. And then finally, we've got the ongoing opportunities. So they've been through all of this training, all of these insights, all of these inspirational days, and now it's time to put that to practice. For young people, that looks like applying, some young people, that looks like applying for university. For other young people, it looks like applying for an apprenticeship. And for some young people, it looks like going for an internship or going for a grad role. But we've done all of that work with them to get them into a position where they can now officially apply for some of those opportunities. And I guess the final point that I'll land on is the key thing that we always said we wanted to do was be the type of organization that supports young people to build careers, not just get jobs. Because there's loads of initiatives that exist out there that sometimes place young people into opportunities, and 6 months later, they're back unemployed because they haven't necessarily built the skills. The reason why we do a lot of the pre-employment work is to make sure young people are being upskilled to basically become the best version of themselves and get the best career possible, but not necessarily just to do a tick box to say they've got a job. So hopefully that speaks to that program journey that we've got when we're working with young people.
Thanks, Carl. The other thing that, as Carl was speaking, something that also came to mind is a really important statistic, which says young people in primary school now, 60% of them will work in jobs that don't exist. So 60% of young people in primary school now will work in jobs that don't exist. And I think that statistic, when I first heard it, really struck me, because it made me realize that yes, it's really important for us to help young people get a job, but how do we help them develop the mindset to be agile and adaptable in a changing and growing and dynamic market? And I think that is so key in the work that corporates have, in the work that organizations like yourself have, who are really passionate about helping young people actually get into a role. But not only that, when they're there, they can flourish. They can flourish not only because you've got the induction plan and the processes to support them, but you're actually understanding that this one job that they have is critical for now, but how can you help them in developing key skills going forward? And so as we're talking about, this is our employability program model in effect. And as Carl mentioned, it's a pre-employment aspect of the work that we do. But this pre-employment aspect sometimes gets overlooked when the goal is just to get someone in a job because we've got a vacancy. But actually, if you think more long-term, how can you have an ongoing pathway of getting and engaging with young people that doesn't just serve this job vacancy for now, but supports with the trajectory of the organization going forward? And so, yeah, I really wanted to kind of just tie up everything that Carl mentioned, because it is such a critical point in the wider conversation about why are you even doing this? Like, why do you want to engage with Gen Z? Why do you want to help make opportunities available for them? Anyway, that's enough for us for a second. I'm going to invite Mohammed to answer our very first question. Mohammed, it also would be really great for you to unmute and just to share with the participants like a little bit about your journey, how you found out about 2 to 3 degrees, and then also answer this question.
My name is Mohammed. I'm a 2 to 3 degrees program alumni. The specific program was something called Redesign Camden, which is a redevelopment project regarding the redevelopment of the O2 Centre in Camden. So, turning the shopping center into like a community area, taking into consideration ESG goals and stuff like that. Currently, I'm in university studying economics, and I've had roles within investment consultancy, finance, as well as buy-side research, which is what I'm currently getting mentored in at this building right now. So let's answer the question. So how can companies effectively engage with Gen Z? So I think like the best way this can be done is through like mentorship programs. So 2 to 3 degrees has like loads of these. For example, they work with like Landsec and like various other firms, such as like East, which is like an architecture firm, where you get to like really network with like different sort of like industry experts as well as like-minded individuals and young people. So I got to work with like loads of people locally that I just never knew about, that were all quite similar to me. I think, this is quite a way to like develop yourself both professionally and personally. Other ways like companies can engage with Gen Z is probably through like mentorship programs. So the place I'm at right now is called Morningstar. They have a mentorship program for like equity research and as well as like asset class research, where they get students like myself and who want a mentor to like teach them about the industry, teach them about the roles, teach them about applications. That's something that can, um, help with guidance, support, have like a mentor figure professionally. Other things that companies can do is host insight days. So I'm lucky to have attended insight days at like really big companies such as JP Morgan Asset Management, KPMG, BlackRock, and in about a week or so, Bank of America, where it's really interesting. You get to meet like loads of different students, all similar ages, normally 12 to 20 years old. You get to meet with huge industry experts, sometimes CEOs, sometimes like CFOs, you just get to meet loads of different people. You get to network, you get to understand the company culture and, understand different opportunities, some that are hidden, some that are more open. I'd say another way companies can be more engaged with Gen Z is through like flexible work arrangements. So loads of companies have student work experience options. So one of my things was with a firm called LCP. So I had a week-long work experience in investment consultancy where I had hybrid work, 3 days in office and the other 4 days at home, where we just got to do research on different asset classes. So I did it on infrastructure, but I also got to work in like football analytics, health analytics, data analytics, and energy analytics. It provides work-life balance, but you still get to, meet loads of different people. When you're at home, you get to be yourself, be more productive. But when you're in person, you get to really build those like meaningful connections, which can develop you personally and professionally. I think that's my section done.
Thanks, Mohammed. That was excellent. It's so interesting hearing you speak and hear about all the things that you've like gone on to do. So thank you so much for sharing. I have a couple of questions. And again, guys, if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're gonna hear from Mohammed a little bit more. But Mohammed, before you attended our program, what would you have said like your perspective was about work and entering the world of work?
I always thought like trying to enter the world of work would be like quite a chore, kind of boring almost, where no one really wants to go into work, but you kind of have to. But ever since joining the program, I've really like developed myself. I've gotten to like speak at a panel today, but I've also got to like host presentations and panel discussions and gotten to shadow people. So a recent example was, I think, a month ago. I got to present an investment at KPMG with loads of other students, which was, something I wouldn't have been able to do without a program like this. But yeah, so after the program, I've just been able to do loads more than what I've been able to do before.
And just finally from me, before the program, did you have like a clear perspective on like what type of job you wanted to do, and how has being on all of the different things that you've been involved in now kind of opened your mind up to the different roles that are available?
So before, I really wanted to get into like the automotive industry because I've always liked cars. I've always studied engineering. I've always really liked engineering. But, ever since joining like Redesign Camden program, what I've had the opportunity to do is I've got to like network with loads of different people within mainly like property development, infrastructure redevelopment, architecture. So one person was Lara in East. She's an architecture, yeah, she's an architect. And what's happened is I've just gotten opened my doors up a lot more. So before, like Carl said, I used to think that property and stuff like that was just hard hats, construction, stuff like that. But now I've seen it's a lot more. There's the finance side, there's the legal side, HR, investment, loads of stuff. And what's that allowed me to do is I've actually kind of gone away from automotive engineering, and what I've kind of now focused on is like the investment industry. So currently I'm looking to get into investment management, asset management, and like investment consultancy, which is something that I didn't even know about before the program.
Oh man, this is so amazing. I'm also attentively listening to Mohammed because we haven't actually formally caught up. Been seeing all the things that he's been doing on LinkedIn, but haven't formally spoken to you since not that long ago. So yeah, it feels like there's been lots that's happened in such a short space of time, but just huge well done to you and like pursuing all of these opportunities. Okay, perfect. So just moving on then to an example of like how you can practically engage with young people, and Carl will just speak to rougher example.
Mohammed, always brilliant hearing about what you've gone on to achieve, man. Thank you so much for sharing. And Tony said in the chat, there's 182 different roles in the construction sector. It blows my mind how there can be so many roles in the sector, but we can be none the wiser sometimes. So opening young people up to those different roles is particularly important. Cool. So Ruffer are an investment firm, and they approached us to support them on their work experience program. And now they had been delivering a work experience program for a number of years, but they got to a place where they found two things. Number one, the candidates that they were recruiting for their work experience program were really lacking in diversity, especially being in the financial services sector, not a traditionally diverse sector, and more specifically engaging with young people from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, or global majority, I should say, and also engaging with young people from more low socioeconomic backgrounds as well. The other thing they recognize is that the impact that was being had, or the design of the program, had just become a little bit stale. It had become a bit samey. And so they were essentially looking to jazz it up. And so what we did is we worked with them on doing two things. Number one, recruiting a number of young people that were from more diverse backgrounds that were based locally. Ruffer are based in Westminster. So we helped them engage with young people that came from the backgrounds that they were looking for, as you can see from the picture, and also that came from the context that they were looking for as well. But we also basically revamped the work experience program to include some more fun and engaging and dynamic elements. You may have heard me say this before, but on our workshops, if you are a facilitator, if you are a presenter, or even if you are the work experience coordinator, if you aren't having fun, and neither are the young people. And I say this to all of our facilitators as well. It's so important to remember that if you are going to bring a bit of life and energy to what you are delivering, it's got to be fun for you as well as for the young people as well. So we included a couple of essentially redesigns to their program, and we also delivered 2 workshops on their program, our maximizing opportunities and our mastering communication workshop as well. So it was a bespoke work experience opportunity. The young people had an incredible time. For a lot of those young people, it was their first time going into a professional environment. So on day one, when they finished and they thought no one was looking, we caught them taking selfies in some of the more fancy rooms. We caught them taking pictures with some of the tech that they were able to use as well. But I guess it just spoke to how comfortable they felt when they were on the workshop as well. As you can see, 100% of the Ruffer staff marked the work experience program as excellent, and they've actually asked us to deliver something like that with them again. And also over 70% of the staff strongly agreed with the statement that the young people benefited from the opportunity as well. A lot of those young people are still engaged in our programs and are keen to continue engaging. And as you can see, some of the feedback from the participants there also speaks to that point. So that's a little bit about our Ruffer work experience program and the impact that we had on the young people.
Cool. So our second objective for today was to talk about how we can increase awareness of your organization to young people and to improve your talent pipeline. Some of this we already spoke to with the previous program journey. So really thinking about what are your outreach strategies as well, but Carl will speak more directly to that. So Carl, how can companies increase their awareness amongst young people in more detail?
Awesome. Funny enough, if you are signed up to the 2 to 3 Degrees newsletter, which I hope you are, and if you're not, you should definitely sign up afterwards. I wrote a blog about this and we put it in our recent newsletter, and it was really 3 key points. I speak to a lot of partners and clients and firms who want to engage with more diverse young people, but if you look at their marketing efforts, there's no difference. And I always say that if you think about the top firms and the top companies in the world, and the way that they market to you is very tailored, to the point where we're now all suspicious that YouTube or Google are listening to us on our phones, because you might say a brand and all of a sudden it comes up on your YouTube ad. But that's how tailored they are in their marketing efforts. So we can learn a little bit something from that. Although we're not necessarily working specific to retail and selling items, your brand of your organization, your firm, does have a big impact on whether young people engage with you. So tailoring your marketing efforts to make them specific to young people. And now that's not me saying that if you are an investment firm or property agency, you now need to market as though you're Nike. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying that you need to ask yourself the questions around, if a young person was reading this, how would it relate to them? Has this gone through anyone who has expertise or has lived experience of the demographic that I'm looking for? Does our marketing team reflect the type of demographic of young people that we want to work with? So jazzing up the marketing is particularly key for that. The way the marketing is done, but also where you are doing the marketing. I think it has been mentioned in the chat already, but we do have an incredible platform called the Connect platform, where we signpost young people to the opportunities that you have. So if you're interested in engaging with more young people from diverse backgrounds, please do feel free to send us that through. A creative application process. We don't do it across all of our roles, but historically what we have done is that we've allowed candidates to apply, not just through CV and cover letter, but also by sending in a presentation or also sending in a video. And part of the rationale for that is we also want to make sure that there's a diversity of thought in the way that we're allowing young people to apply for opportunities. So if you're always going through the same traditional CV and cover letter format, maybe you're not being inclusive to other young people who might have a more creative way of expressing themselves. And maybe you're also robbing your workforce of the opportunity of bringing in a skill set that you don't usually have access to. And so being a bit more creative about the application process is particularly key. And then also no boots on the ground. Aziz mentioned this before. We had a program that we delivered a couple of weeks ago, the Mastering My Future program. And one of my colleagues walked into a workshop. We had 3 young ladies walk into that workshop. They all saw each other and they all started dancing and screaming like, "Oh my days, you made it!" And I was like, "What is going on? What's all this havoc?" And they were telling me that actually the 3 young ladies that had walked into the workshop are 3 young ladies that they had met maybe 3 days before, when they were out flyering in Westminster talking about the program. And that just speaks to the importance of getting out there and actually engaging with the demographic that you're trying to work with. Now, you might not necessarily be in a position where you can go out and flyer to young people. That's totally fine. But as he's mentioned it earlier, maybe you can go into a college and deliver a taster session. Maybe you can go in there and deliver an assembly, or maybe you can just go in and observe what happens in a school, in a college, in a youth club, so you can get a better understanding of that demographic. So actually having boots on the ground is a huge way to learn more about young people, especially Gen Z, but also to access them directly. You never know what case study or what Mohammed's story is going to be on your next webinar, just by stepping out of your comfort zone and engaging with young people in a different way.
Thanks, Carl. Just quickly on that as well. Oftentimes we do consultation workshops for employers who want to engage with young people. And the one thing that we see plastered all over their face is fear. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to do? How?" Literally just really, really, really nervous. And so if you or your team members who are thinking about putting on some of these opportunities and really want to engage with young people in a unique way, but you're not sure how, or you're feeling a little bit nervous or a little bit anxious to do so, then please feel free to get in touch with us. We're more than happy to share some practical things with you about how to do that more directly, because it is a little bit like daunting standing in front of assembly, for example, with 120, nearly 200 young people just looking at you thinking, what are you about to say to me? And you also want to do a really great service for your organization. So I can understand that sometimes there is a little bit more pressure than if you're doing a presentation in a boardroom to a few familiar faces. So yeah, feel free to get in touch with us if you do want to do something like that. Cool, so that point addresses objective number 2, and we're moving on to objective number 3. So get advice on how to help young people develop key skills so they can be career ready. So when Carl and I first set up 2 to 3 degrees, we had our own personal experience of really feeling like a failure at education level and at university level, and feeling really anxious about how we're going to enter the workforce. But one thing that we were so lucky to have was we met each other at university studying international relations and politics. And I probably should preface now, because some of you may or may not know us, but we're not an item of any kind. We used to say this before our meetings, because people would look at us and be like, how does this partnership work? But no, we're really good friends that we met at university.
Too much information.
I mean, it could be, but then we could have had some questions after, so I feel like I just set a little.
You made me laugh, you made me chuckle.
But yeah, so we peer mentored each other for our final years of uni, and that peer mentoring that we did was really critical in helping us develop our confidence, developing our networking skills. We used to message each other before going to an event saying, make sure you get at least 3 really useful business cards, and then make sure you email them 3 to 5 business days after the event. And that was so useful for us, because actually straight out of uni, we got really great jobs. But then our other friends didn't have the same luck. And so when we set up 2 to 3 degrees to support young people to develop personal development skills, one, we were kind of annoyed, like, why did the education system not give this to us? Why did we have to do it ourselves? And 2, why are more young people just not getting it? 3, why are older people having to pay thousands of pounds to go on a motivational weekend or seminar to really change their life? Whereas if they had this information before, surely it would have been so useful. And so we had all of these feelings, right? But we also needed the evidence to back it up. And one of them came from the CBI report. So the Centre of Business Institute, I believe. Yeah, Chartered Business Institute. Someone's going to correct me in the chat. Please do, feel free. And they had a stat that was basically saying that employers care more about attitude over aptitude. And oftentimes young people are not aware of this. They're not aware of these, what Skills Builder, as another organization likes to call, essential skills. Some people call them soft skills, but soft make them sound soft. They're not soft, they're actually essential, they're personal development or they're key skills. So the things that I guess we're talking about is, if we forget that key skills / essential skills are critical in helping people develop, then we're not also going to be designing opportunities to help them thrive when they're there. So let's just take a normal recruitment process, right? We've got a job advert out right now. Typically, you have the job advert, you'll have application process, and then you'll have an induction plan. But actually, is this an opportunity now that you're going through an induction plan to think about, how can I better tailor it for a Gen Z audience? Yes, I have an induction plan that we need to follow because of HR, but actually, are there a few things that we're often seeing that young people entering the workforce do or don't have? And so I'd really encourage you guys to speak to HR teams, if possible, to talk about this as well, because too often young people don't know how to confidently present themselves. They're not sure about workplace etiquette, or also they're just not even sure how to network with their colleagues or questions that they can ask when, how, and where, and who to. And so thinking about how you can help them develop key skills is a critical one. Mohammed mentioned earlier, mentoring has been so useful for him. And 2, like, networking has been critical as well. And so thinking about how you're going to develop this training is really, really good. I just want to give a really quick example before we hear from Tony. But at Herbert Smith Freehills, they're a legal firm in the City of London. And we've partnered with them for over 5 years. And every year they've worked on helping recruit local young people onto a program. When I say local young people, I should also mention that maybe from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, to find out more about the world of law, or the industry of law and the legal profession. But along that process, the reason why they've partnered with us for 5 years is because they've recognized that in order to really help young people understand the industry and get the most out of the experience of the program, which is an incredible program, by the way, actually there are key skills that young people need to develop along the way. And so yes, you can build them the technical skills, but actually let's not miss these points. And so over this process, we've impacted over 70 young people on their program. And now the legal firms have also come together as a collective to talk about a commitment called Prime. And these are covering some very key essential skills. If through any legal firm, if they're putting on a program like this, they have to cover these key skills in order to help young people really get the best out of the experience that they're taking. And so we've been partnered with Herbert Smith, but also other legal firms in Scotland and across the country as well, to really help young people develop it. And we've noticed that actually across the board, whether you're in England or you're in Scotland, this is really critical for young people more generally. So yeah, that's another point to mention. Carl, is there anything on this point that you want to add? Cool, he said no, that's good. Great, so let's go over to Tony. So Tony, please feel free to give a little bit of an introduction and then help us answer this question as well.
Yeah, no, firstly, it's a delight being on the call, and actually following you guys is always almost impossible anyway, and Mohammed as well, because your sessions are fantastic. But yeah, I work nationally for DWP. I have done for a number of years, and I lead on things like employment and skills and supporting vulnerable customers into work. I've got a history of working with employers, and yeah, I may well say some of the things that have already been said, but I think the first message to all of the employers out there is be bold, look to do something different on this agenda. It's so important that you do something on this agenda, and it's so important that you actually see this as a concrete route into a pipeline of fantastic young people, and make that your mantra. I think your outreach is a key thing, and we mention it, but I think it needs to be meaningful outreach. I think people sometimes tick box outreach in terms of activities. And what I mean by it is actually going into schools, even trying to adopt schools, actually working with the head teachers, working with the careers advisors, because they don't know what they don't know. You know, I put in the chat there 182 jobs in construction, every conceivable career in construction, but most careers advisors at school would not actually know that at all. And I bemoan the fact when I go to schools and universities, there's hardly any construction companies on site or attending any jobs fairs, for instance. So I do think it's meaningful engagement with schools and universities and colleges as well. And I think it's about supporting the careers advisors in terms of how they engage their students in thinking about different types of careers. I sadly, and I'll share this with people, and I say this and people don't believe me, but I mentor lots of students. I'm part of the National Mentoring Consortium at different stages of the university career that hit level 3 and are 4 or 5 months before they graduate, and they have no idea what they're looking to do. No one's taken time to offer any mentoring, support. They've not had hardly any interaction with employers as well. So I do think that really is the first stage. And obviously working with you guys here, I know this is what you guys can help and support in, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'd recommend that. From a DWP perspective, you may not know, but we have 120 youth hubs up and down the country in different parts of every district. We're looking to work with LinkedIn, one of my national accounts at the moment, to look at something called branding. I should have shares in LinkedIn. People who know me know I love LinkedIn, and I keep on moaning at them. And why don't I get a trip to Dublin, at least where they're based? But that's not in the offing either. But LinkedIn and branding is so important. So as an employer, I do think, yeah, if you're talking to young people to help them with their branding, what does good look like in terms of how they present themselves? Once again, it's quite woeful. And as I say, you don't know what you don't know. The number of students I actually talk to, and I look at their LinkedIn profile, and it seems quite nice, but I have no idea what their narrative is, what they're like as human beings, what their aspirations are, where they want to be, what their flexibilities are as well. So I do think that's hugely important in terms, as I say, you can link with us. We've done a lot of work as well with big employers like KPMG and PwC, and it's bizarre the numbers that actually we've managed to get in Stratford recently, which is one of our innovation hubs, which is a different type of job centre. We managed to get KPMG in almost for the first time to think about how they can actually recruit from a local job centre. That may sound strange to people, but if you think about the large organisations that are now committing to internships and apprenticeships and really trying to diversify their workforce, they were actually quite staggered at the number of young unemployed graduates they actually interviewed on our premises, which was actually quite it's always jaw-dropping, but it's never surprising to me, because once again, you don't know what you don't know. So I think, in terms of an employer, it is that sort of footprint in schools. It is that offer of doing mentoring, meaningful mentoring. Some employers are adopting schools with a view to actually, if they're in a local community, to look at it, well, actually, why wouldn't we be talent spotting at an early age? Why wouldn't we be going into schools and making young people aware of our careers and what's available to them? And I think there's also, as been referenced as well, the employability aspect. Never assume that people are confident in terms of actually talking in front of people, 2 or 3 people, never mind an audience. And I think, competency-based recruitment, we use something called success profiles criteria, which is very much around competency-based examples. So once again, I have to spend a lot of time working with young people, looking at, what kind of examples they can put in there in terms of, personal examples, if you don't have work examples, etc. But as an employer and as employers, you could be helping and supporting young people with thinking about their journey and actually how they're developing, work experience opportunities as well, and building on that as well. So I do think there's a huge range of things that you can be doing as an employer. I absolutely accept it. This may take a little bit of time. I think it's just developing the right links. You can be working with Aziz and Carl here and doing some great things, and they'll support you with that, because I already know what they're doing with some employers, and that might be the best way to tackle this. But if you do invest a bit of time in this and you do develop, access to different pipelines, it will pay off for you. So I think it's a bit of commitment, and think about the range of things you can be doing to support young people with a view to employing them yourselves, if you possibly can. And I'll sort of stop there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tony. It's a lot of food for thought, especially from your perspective as well. With what you said in mind, I feel like there's a lot that we probably need to digest. So I'm going to encourage everyone, cameras on or not, I'm going to encourage all of you to do a quick movement break, just to stretch. So encourage you to stretch up, stretch to the side, if you can, whatever your ability allows. Stretch down. Even if you can get out of your chairs as well, that would be really good, just to give yourself a quick rotation. Rolling your shoulders back. Thanks, everyone. Love that, Angela. Thank you. Lovely, Jess. Lovely. Okay, cool. So yeah, there's a lot of food for thought here in terms of whether you do it yourself or whether you do it with support of others. But actually, ultimately, the main thing is actually that you are doing it. You're on this call because you care. And so we really thank you for being here just to even have this conversation with us. So without further ado, I want to go into our final quick objective, and then we're going to go to a Q&A. So if you don't already have a question, feel free to put a question in the chat, and then we're going to capture all the questions and ask the panelists together. So final point was get youth insights on live business challenges. And what we meant by this was, how are we making sure that ultimately the youth initiatives you're doing, yes, it might be a personal project of yours, something that you're very passionate about, but how do you align this with the business, the wider business challenges or the wider business goals? Because it's all good and well saying, yeah, we want to get young people involved, but actually, how do you get the buy-in internally to make it not just something that's a nice to have, but something that is strategically aligned with the company vision? And I think that's a really important point to mention, because actually, if we don't align it now, it will become, like Tony mentioned, something that could be quite tokenistic. If one person leaves, then, you know, this initiative no longer exists. And actually, how do you create that legacy that impacts the company more often, for a longer period of time? And so Tara can obviously speak to that. So Tara, a little bit of an introduction, please, and please help us in answering this question.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Tara Foy, and I'm the Senior CSR Manager at BNP Paribas. We are a French banking group, so we're not a retail bank in the UK, so you might not have heard of us unless you're particularly into the tennis, because we do sponsor a lot of tennis tournaments around the world. My role is to really look at the skills and resources of our organisation and then work with our different community groups to see how we can address some of the challenges they might be facing. It's a lot of fun. And it sounds like it's just a sort of nice to have. You work in financial services, they've got money to throw at things, but actually it's a really core part of who we are as an organisation. So for us, especially working with young people, it's a key part of our purpose. When we have people apply to work with us, the number one job used to be, how much money am I going to get paid? Sorry, the number one question used to be, how much am I going to get paid? The number one question now is actually like, what is the organisation's commitment to our community and our environment? And the second question is about getting paid. So for us, it's being able to say, well, actually, this is what we do. These are our programs where we work with young people in our communities. And this is the difference that we're making. And then when staff join us and they can engage with those young people, they're having a really tangible impact, because especially speaking to the earlier point about locals, you know, we are not like other banks. We're not based in the city. We're based in North Westminster. So we're on the same road as two of the UK's most deprived council wards. So, you know, we have kids walking past our office who are living really chaotic, difficult lives in some instances. And we want them to look at us and know who we are, but also think that we are somewhere where they could come and work, which sort of leads me on to our next point about the workforce. You know, banking traditionally very male, pale, stale, and that doesn't reflect the communities and the clients that we serve. We need our workforce to be just as diverse as the communities we live in, but you can't be it if you can't see it. You know, kids aren't going to know. You say 182 jobs in construction. Tony, I meet people, I've worked at BNP Paribas for 10 years. I meet people who do jobs that I didn't know exist. And, you know, I've been working with them for a decade. So if you're 14, 15, 16, how would you ever know without getting that opportunity to come in? So it really helps us diversify our workforce by not just letting them know what jobs are out there, but also showing them that we're an organisation that understands that not everyone has the same lived experience, and that we want to be able to attract people from all backgrounds, all communities, all identities, whatever it might be. For us in particular, there's also a lot of regulation now around how organisations operate in our industry. Most of the regulation at the moment is focused around environmental issues, but it's very, very likely that very, very soon social issues are also going to be a key focus for the regulator. So being able to be a step ahead and say, well, actually, we're already involved in our communities, we're already doing XYZ, is really, really important. And then we have public commitments. You know, we're an international group, we're in 67 countries, we've got nearly 200,000 employees globally. And across all of those businesses, we're aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We have a company engagement manifesto globally dedicating ourselves to local people, local communities, young people, and entrepreneurship. And working with young people really ticks a lot of those boxes. And also, you know, they really surprise you. And I think whilst for us, because of the nature of our work, it's difficult to have them come in and actually do work, the experience we give them, we always ask them for feedback, because they're the experts in what young people want. And we're always, no matter, even if we just have them in for an hour, we're like, okay, what worked, what didn't, what did you like, what could we totally forget about, what was missing? And we're making sure that we're always improving it based on what they want, because we're not young anymore as much as we might like to be, and we're not living those experiences that they have. So if we can't offer them what they want, all the rest of the stuff I've just said before doesn't matter, because we're not meeting the needs of those people who we're trying to entice to join us, as it were. So for us, it's so much more than a tick box exercise. It's a key part of our strategy as an organisation. It's a key part of our identity within the industry and the wider economy. And it's really important for us to make sure it's something that we continue with.
Excellent. Thank you so much. What got you involved in this work?
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Well, I used to be a compliance officer, which was all about financial regulation. But I think the purpose side of things really drives me a little bit more. I'm really passionate about justice, and I don't think it's fair that just because somebody was born on one end of the road, they have a different experience to somebody on the other. And as an organization with so much reach, whether it's through our clients, whether it's through the size of our organization, whether it's our global footprint, we have an opportunity to make a difference and an obligation, I think, in my personal opinion. And I'm also a bit of a control freak. So if you want something done right, like, do it yourself. And not that I didn't trust the rest of my colleagues, but I quite enjoy being the one in charge who gets to make the decisions within reason, because I do have a manager who makes more decisions, obviously.
Amazing. Just one final question for me then. Was it straightforward in getting a lot of the youth initiatives that you're doing agreed internally? Or what advice would you give people who want to start it within the organization but might not yet have the buy-in?
For us, as a bank, we really like numbers and we really like the bottom line. So looking at sort of the challenges that we knew were coming, whether that is through difficulty now finding decent candidates for jobs that we've got because the market is so competitive, whether it's knowing that regulation is going to be coming in, looking at, you know, our ethnicity pay gap, our commitments to social mobility, and also knowing that our staff themselves who were already here wanted more. It was easy for us to sort of put together a really good business case and say, okay, well, this is what the problems we're facing, this is how this is going to address those problems, this is how much it's going to cost, but this is how much net gain we're going to get. And that net gain is rarely financial, when, like, you can't say, oh, we're going to make money by talking to kids, but the long-term game in respect to our business success is very evident and apparent. So we were pretty lucky from that respect because it was such a strong business case. But it doesn't mean it was smooth sailing. We'd never done it before, so we had to talk to lots of different organizations, including 2 to 3 Degrees. You guys came in and did some incredible work with us around our offering and how we were delivering some things to young people, because I think also there's a real difference between graduates who have been to university, who have done the internships, who have got family in the industry, and young people who are not from that background, trying to engage them. And, you know, we did a CV workshop that we would do with graduates that was very banking. And then you guys came in and completely revolutionized it. And the engagement level from the young people was completely different. And also, I think another thing that's really important is we're not just now inviting young people in who are already interested in banking. Like, yes, absolutely, it's great that they are, but it's just as important to give those young people who haven't shown an interest before exposure to our industry, because that's how you really entice people who might be incredibly smart but never have thought about it before, or you're just helping young people learn, actually, that isn't for me at all, and that's fine as well. It's not just about, okay, we want to get the best talent that from this untapped pool. It's about sort of exposure on a wider level.
Love that. Okay, so without further ado, I would definitely want to get to, thank you, Tara. I want to get to the Q&A. Carl, could you quickly give an example, the Shaftesbury property example, for us as well, to give us more context?
Awesome. Tara, it's great to kind of hear you share about your experience. And I also just want to shout out that I find that of all the organizations that we work with, the organizations that are able to be honest about their lack of understanding or experience in engaging with Gen Z are the ones that go the furthest. The organizations that think they've got it all figured out are the ones that struggle the most. And I'm finding that to be really interesting in the work that we've been doing over the last 8 years. And that level of vulnerability often produces a lot of impact. And the Shaftesbury property program is a real great example of that. Essentially, Shaftesbury were like, look, we're really keen to engage with young people from our local community. And our challenge to them was, what is a real live business challenge that you have that is essentially going to make this program meaningful? Because yes, we could recruit a group of young people, deliver a bunch of workshops and tick boxes to say that they came and did something with you, but how do we do something that means that young people leave and they're like, wow, we really got a taste of what it's like to work at Shaftesbury? So there were 2 key moments that happened in the program. One is the brief essentially was Shaftesbury had a unit, a space that was currently unoccupied, and they wanted the young people to work on what brand they should allow to occupy that tenancy and why. And it was an incredible experience of supporting the young people to get a better understanding around the marketing, around the numbers, around what type of brands, and also the demographic of people that even shop in that Shaftesbury area. But there was a key moment where the person, I hope they're not watching this, the person who is responsible for choosing who the brands are based in that area, presented back to the young people. Imagine you're in a room full of 15, 16-year-olds, and they were like, these are all the brands that we've got. These are all the amazing tenants that really make us good at what we do. And they mentioned 3 of the top ones, and the young people were just blank. We don't know who they are. We don't think they're the right brands. And it was a real rude awakening for that person, because they were like, my finger is actually not on the pulse. And that was a great way for them to learn that actually, if I want to be able to tap into Gen Z, I've got to tap into Gen Z. I've got to actually speak to them. I can't make the assumption that I know what they think. And those are the type of experiences that we're helping some of our partners get by doing deep and meaningful work with these young people. So I'd really encourage you, if you're keen to do something meaningful, impactful with Gen Z, tap into Gen Z specifically. We can help you do that, and if you've got the capacity to do that yourselves, then go ahead, but step out of your comfort zone and actually hear from the young people themselves.
Excellent. Okay, without further ado, we're going to questions. So I'm just going to quickly spotlight all of our speakers, and we've got a few questions already that everyone kind of shared at the beginning. So we want to cover them. Thank you, Fraser. Love that. Okay, wait. I've got a list of questions. Bear with. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Perfect. Right, thank you. So, I want to go to Mohammed first. Yes. What are people looking for when they're reviewing their jobs early in their career, Mohammed?
I think what people look for in a job earlier within their career is like a lot of like flexibility. So like maybe if you're like a student within maybe like, I don't know, maybe you're doing your GCSEs, A levels, BTECs, even university, right? Flexibility is really important. So, that's why I have a job as a tutor. I don't have too much time to, like have a full-time job or really long hours in a part-time job. So what I like to do is have quite a flexible job. I think that's quite important. Something else that might be like really important is like job security. You don't really want an unstable job or a job with unstable hours. You don't really want it to fluctuate with like inconsistent hours. You don't want it to have 10 hours one week, no hours the next week, or something like that. You really want a good balance. I think something else that might be good in a job would be the convenience of the job. Maybe it's to do with the location, so whether it's local or not, because no one really wants to travel an hour plus for a job that's minimum wage. Maybe it doesn't have any obvious prospects. Every job has prospects, but some less obvious than others. Maybe some other things that you might consider with a job is what it could lead to in the future. So, for example, it wasn't really a job, it was more of a program. When I was working with 2 to 3 degrees in the Redesign Camden project, I had the opportunity to like network with loads of people. One of the people I networked with worked in Camden Council. And then what happened was it actually led to me having a work experience placement within development consultancy, where I got to work with the Euston Station redevelopment project, which only happened just because, I went out of my way, not really out of my way, it was quite convenient actually, just to, get the job, stuff like that.
Wicked. I love that it was out of the way, but not out of the way, kind of convenient. But it's true. And that kind of speaks to the statistic that we had at the beginning about young people feeling like they can find opportunities locally to them. Tara, did you unmute? Did you want to say something in response to that?
Oh no, I'm just on.
Okay, no, all good. All right, so I want to move over to Tony. So Tony, you spoke a lot about different things that corporates could be doing to really engage lots of young people in this new space and also help equip them with the skills that they needed. How is engagement with the government and addressing youth at earlier stages of education actually going from your perspective?
It's very much work in progress, Aziza. I think, as I say, we recognise that we need to do a lot more around bridging the gap between those sectors that are recruiting heavily. And I've mentioned the 5 growth sectors, construction, social media, tech, warehouse, manufacturing, social care. We know we need to do a lot more in terms of bridging the gap. Dare I say it, adopt more of a European model. I don't know, but across Europe, certainly around Germany and Belgium, Holland and Norway and Sweden, they tend to gear their whole educational system around the needs of the economy and what the actual economy is saying in terms of skill shortage areas and want. So I think we are certainly a concerted effort to do more. But I do think, as I say, this is where employers come very much into play here. We can only do so much, but we need to really engage more employers proactively in this space, I think, and get them fully engaged in terms of making, and it's not just making young people aware, it's making careers advisors aware and teachers aware and head teachers aware that there are great actual careers out there across all sectors that maybe people are missing a trick on.
Yeah, that's so true. So true and so key. Okay, Tara, what tips would you give, or what tips would you have for like line managing Gen Z?
Ooh. Well, I think it's important to understand that they do things a little differently than perhaps the rest of us do. They've grown up in a completely different world, right? Like constantly online, completely different pressures. Well, they manifest the pressures in a different way. When I was at school, it was important to look great, but I didn't have people taking my photo every 5 seconds and putting it on the internet. And I think we spoke a little earlier about there's a lot of unwritten rules in the workplace that they don't know. I think it's really important to keep that training up, and because there are ones that even I forget when I'm training people that I'm like, that don't come till later when they're like, oh, I didn't know that XYZ meant XYZ. So I think that's a really important one, and just to be understanding. And also, back in the day, it used to be all about career, and I've got to make loads of money and I've got to get to the top. And I don't know that it's necessarily the same anymore. So just a lot of conversation and helping them help you understanding what it is that they want from their time with you. And also, you understanding what you're offering them. It's got to be a two-way relationship.
I'd like to add something there, Aziz, as well. Can I on that one? That wasn't my question, but I know some organizations are doing something which is really fascinating about almost age-blind mentoring or support relationships, where they're getting a lot of young people working or mentoring. It's a two-way street. This young people being mentored by old people and reverse. So they're actually, because I think what will happen in some organizations, young people usually congregate together because they may have similar interests and similar things. The older workers in the organization may well do what they do. So some organizations are actually not forcibly, but inviting older members of staff to mentor young people and vice versa. And that's having a really profound effect in terms of certainly a lot of managers getting to understand things they may not have understood before, i.e. the power of social media, those sort of things. And also for younger people, also getting a sort of insight into things like budgeting and managing careers and sustainable careers. So there are different things, but I'd recommend any employer consider that and offer that, because that seems to have worked quite well.
Just on that point, I can speak directly to that. I had 2 very pivotal mentors, an older woman aged 72 when I was 21, and another lady who was around 60 when I was around 21. And both of those white British ladies really, really helped me navigate my career, but also I mentored them on different things as well, to help them really access different parts of like the public policy that we were working on. So yeah, definitely can attest to that. Okay, Carl, there's a few questions in the chat about post-engagement feedback. So what would you say to helping really capture great feedback after a program with young people, and what are the best ways of doing that?
Sweet. I think it starts with the expectations that you set in the program itself. So number one, make the program good. Sounds like a no-brainer, but it's easier to give feedback to something that you actually got a lot of value from. So make the program good. Number two, I think set their expectations when they get started. So one of the things that we try to do with our programs is to encourage young people that now that they've been through our program, they are now a part of a community. And because they're a part of a community, there's certain things that that community will do. Number one, there'll be regular communication. So make sure you sign up to our newsletter. Number two, there'll be consistent opportunities available to you to make sure you're continuing on the Connect platform. And number three, stay in touch with the key people that you've learned from. So we always say to young people that they say you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So their network and the people that they surround themselves with are particularly important. And so we do all of that so that when it comes to post-evaluation feedback, it's a lot easier to get people to contribute. So we have an annual survey that we send out to our young people to find out how they're doing post our programs. When we deliver the program, there will be the usual kind of case studies and feedback that are done from an evaluation perspective, but we always try to make sure that we circle back to young people. It might be a month afterwards, it might be 3 months afterwards, to find out how they're doing and how they've used the opportunities that we've given them access to. So the post-evaluation feedback probably looks different across a few different programs, but the core pillars remain the same, making sure the young people are aware of what they've signed up to, making sure that we've encouraged them to be a part of a community, and making sure that they're staying in touch with the key networks that we're going to use to do that post-evaluation feedback. And I think that covers the majority of it, unless I've missed anything, Aziz.
No, I think just to wrap up something that Beth is asking as well, this is to all speakers, like how do you keep people engaged long term? I think we spoke to that. It's just having that ongoing communication. Whether it's phone calls, whether it's emails, whether it's keeping your social media pages updated, keeping your newsletters regular. People want to have relationship. We often talk about Carl. I remember when he said this, I was like, this is such a good point. So Carl, I'm definitely stealing it. But anyways, he was talking about it's really important to have relationship with people. We talk about relatability a lot, and it's not everything that you can relate to, but actually having a relationship with somebody helps you to be empathetic or listen or share information. And I think that's a really nice approach to it, and thinking about that in your relationship with staying in touch with the young person. Like the program that Mohammed and I worked on was over 3 years ago now. You know, that there's a reason why we can still stay engaged, because that started so long ago, but we've kept in relation with each other. And I think this is the same approach to have when working with young people. So unfortunately, that draws our session to a nearly close, not a close, to a nearly close, because we have one thing we want to ask all of you to do for us as well, which is to please share your feedback about this session, if you found it useful, what you want to do going forward, how we may be able to help you. There's just a really, really short survey. Please do not leave before you've completed the survey. I have one very, very, very important announcement to make shortly after this. So I'll just give you a few moments to respond to this, and our team are putting the link of this survey in the group chat. But just if you've got a phone, you can put your phone and turn your camera on and to the screen, and it will come up with a link to this survey. So if you could quickly do that, please, while I give you some elevator music. Let's go.
Why I have to be spoiled watching do this?
Sorry. I'm getting some smiles. Thanks, Angela. I appreciate the value that I'm providing. Just give me a thumbs up or say done in the chat when you're done, please, and I can go to my final announcement, but we'll keep the elevator music going whilst you complete this.
This is recording, and then we have it playing in the background.
See, get onto something there. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, thank you. Right.
Whilst you complete this form, can I encourage you? There's a question on the form that asks you how best we can help you going forward. I'd really encourage you, if you've got a program or if you've got an idea that you'd just like to chat about, please do make a note of that on the feedback form. We're really keen to help improve and share best practice, as we have done today, on how to engage with young people. So on the feedback form, when you do come across that question about booking in a meeting or having a conversation, please do mark that if there's something that we can help you with.
Okay, just as everyone's wrapping up, please put done in the chat. Don't leave yet. Just got a couple more key announcements to make. Thank you, thank you. Right, I think a few more people are done. I know I'm going to start getting dones and thumbs up in the group chat as well. So first of all, please, can everyone on this call, A, put your camera on, and 2, join me in giving a round of applause, either virtually or online, to our panelists today. It's been amazing to have their time, to have their support, their insight. I know there was a lot of information, but imagine you got this all for free, guys. It's just free information. So yeah, please join me in thanking our panelists. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. And keeping your cameras on, if you'd like to feature in our LinkedIn post that we're going to do, we're going to take a group picture as we do, just a quick group picture. So feel free to use your arms, use your face, do a smile, and someone on the team are going to take a picture in a few seconds. So look alive, look alive. We're going to at you as well in it. Thank you for letting me know you're done. We're going to at you in the post as well. And if you're not added in the post, what happened? Ready? Oh, sorry, let me stop sharing. In 3, 2, 1, smile. Hey, everyone, I see everyone with their cute smiles. Okay, love that. Thank you. And just finally, one quick plug. But we mentioned quite a few times that we have the Mastering My Future program that happens in Westminster. We are running that program again for young people. If you want to get involved or find out more, please contact us. We often also invite people to observe our workshops. So if you want to see what we do in action, then make sure you email us, or we'll get in contact with you if you've put that on your survey as well, and we will invite you to that session. If you've got opportunities that you want to share with young people, let us know as soon as possible. We'll add it to our online platform, and we've got a newsletter as well that we can add it to that goes out regularly. So yeah, more than happy to continue sharing all the great work that you guys are doing. But for now, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you or speaking to you again soon. Bye. Bye, everyone.